Now at 7, it appears President Trump is now poised to allow oil drilling off the coast of Florida.
An announcement might come at any time, and in this age of political division, it's one of the few things in the state where Democrats and Republicans agree. CBS 4's Jim DeFede recently traveled up to Stewart to discuss the plan with Republican Congressman Brian Mast, a big President Trump supporter.
One of the things that Florida representatives, Florida senators, governors have been unified in is saying, listen, we don't want drilling off of the coast of Florida, not on the East Coast, not in the Gulf, not off the Florida Keys. I don't want any rigs off of Jensen Beach or Stewart Beach or anywhere else. And this is something that Florida is very, very united in, the representation in Florida, very united in this. President comes down here regularly. His previous Secretary of Interior, Secretary Zinke, he made the commitment that there won't be drilling around the state of Florida. There's a new secretary in there now as well, and it's a matter of getting that new secretary up to speed and saying, listen, this is something that the state doesn't want. You know, we're a water state, we're a peninsula. Our waters are our pride and joy. It's why people come here, the water and the weather, and we don't want anything whatsoever to threaten that. And you know, as the old saying goes, you know, over my dead body. So.
The new Interior Secretary, though, from what I gather, whether it was Marco Rubio pressing him or others, did not make that commitment. And usually he's most vulnerable before he gets Senate approval. Now he's been approved by the Senate, he's in the position. You know, the fact that he wouldn't commit to banning offshore oil drilling, in essence, off Florida or take it off the table, does that trouble you?
It's something that there's still more conversation to be had about. I'm not super troubled about it at this point because I know that we're engaged in that conversation. We had the commitment from the previous Secretary of the Interior. These conversations are still ongoing with the entire administration. The president is well aware of what Secretary Zinke had made a commitment to before. So yes, it's a piece of the conversation that they haven't committed to this yet, but it's something that I wouldn't say that the conversation of it has been negative behind closed doors.
The idea is that if you're going to continue to squeeze Venezuela and cut off oil imports from Venezuela and from other countries, you start having a fear, at least the White House may have a fear of rising oil prices, and one way to alleviate that would be to sort of allow permitting for oil drilling off. Is that the tension that we're sort of seeing? Do you think that's part of it?
It's not just Venezuela. This goes long before we were looking at what's going on, you know, with Maduro in Venezuela. This goes to, you know, we want to see energy resources across the breadth of the United States of America being used, being exported, being created for industry. But that comes with balance. Where do you want to do that and where do you not want to do that? Our state of Florida, we have our own property rights here, our own way that we want to see our state managed. That's one of the most beautiful things about the United States of America. We stand very united in saying, listen, this is not going to be the oil capital of the United States of America. This is not what we're looking for here. We want people coming here, you know, fishing, coming here to, you know, see our waterfowl, coming here to see the beauty and the splendor of the state of Florida, the Everglades. We don't want to see any drilling going on there in the Everglades either. We want people coming here for the beauty, and that just doesn't play into that, and so we're going to stand against it.
Politically speaking, if the president were to move forward with that plan, do you think he's at greater risk of losing Florida and then for possibly the presidency in 2020?
Yes.
That's what he has to worry about, is if he allows this, it could endanger his presidency.
I would say that puts Florida certainly at danger. People, citizens across the state of Florida, people that come down to Florida as a second home, people that live in Florida 365 days a year, people that work in Florida anywhere in the service industry, people that just want to enjoy the beauty of Florida. They don't want to see drilling in the Everglades, off our Atlantic coast or out in the Gulf. And when you talk about something that unites Florida so much, yes, that is something that puts anybody's political future to go out there at risk to be on the other side of, to include the president.
All right. Well, Jim will have more on the topic of offshore oil drilling in Florida this Sunday on Facing South Florida. It airs right here on CBS 4 at 11:30.